Reddit, what's the scariest theory known to mankind? So there is this surgery people get that separates the connection between the left and right side of the brain. People who get this done often have this strange thing happen where their left hand gets a mind of its own. For example, if you lay a bunch of differently colored objects out in front of them and ask them to pick the one that's their favorite color, they will pick up two that are different colors. People hypothesize that there may be a second consciousness living on the right side of your brain, but does not have the ability to communicate. Although not particularly scary, still pretty terrifying when you think about it. The Big Bounce theory. What it states is that if the Big Bang occurred from nothing, then there will be no changing factor to make a difference in what is created when it happens. This means that when our universe ends and another is created, it will be created in the exact same way, with the exact same galaxies, planets, species and so on. If this is true, our entire universe is in an endless cycle of creating and destroying itself, and you will be born into every universe, endlessly. The Great Filter, an extension of the Fermi paradox. There are large events that filter out which species make it. Humanity has either made it past more than almost anything else in the galaxy, or we've yet to hit it, and the human race will crumble in the foreseeable future. One of the most frightening theories is one of the simplest. There is no conspiracy, there is no Illuminati or small group of hidden, super rich, mega powerful leaders. Everybody is just looking out for their own, and following their own beliefs. All the travesties and pain in the world are because of that. There is an ice dragon living under Winterfell. Humanity is a seed planted by an alien civilization to terraform the planet. We were never meant to survive. The idea that once we create an AI with the same level of intelligence as an average person, it will take a matter of hours to become more intelligent than the sum of all mankind, conclude we are the source of all its problems, and kill us all. Forget the name, but the idea that there are fourth dimensional hyperbeings existing around us that we cannot see, just as two-dimensional beings wouldn't be able to see us. But they're always there, always watching. Time may be a finite dimension. We could reach the end of it and just stop. We reached the edge, there is nothing after that. Everything freezes, the end forever. Chemtrails are making frogs gay theory. Actually, this is real. Some species of frogs have mechanism where they can switch genders to even out the male-female ratio in their group. The pesticide atrazine has been causing this to happen in male frogs, making them into hermaphrodites. If something isn't done, this could cause the extinction of several species of frogs. OP, get ready for the most depressing theory. The terror management theory. In a nutshell, its explanation would be that everything that humanity has ever accomplished beyond basic survival has been motivated by a fundamental and irreducible fear of non-existence, and things like culture, religion, family etc. are just a massive shared delusion to mitigate our fear of the unknown and ultimately of death. Basically, our lives are pointless, our achievements are pointless, our existence in this universe is pointless. That we are all part of a programmed game being played by beings far more intelligent than us. Solipsism, a theory you cannot disprove. No matter how accurately we can map the brain and log what electrical signals fire, when and where when you and I eat chocolate, even if our brain's activity is identical, we can never check whether or not we are experiencing the same sensations. Solipsism is this notion, but on steroids. One can never definitively prove that others are real and not a figment of one's imagination, let alone whether or not they're experiencing anything as real, conscious beings like oneself. It's perfectly plausible that the I one experiences is the only conscious, thinking entity in existence. Going to get buried, I'm sure, but after a near-death car accident I had a dream that scared the ever-lovingst out of me. In my dream, same car accident ensued, except this time I died. Death was nothing but my thoughts. I still had my consciousness, but no physical reality. I couldn't feel a thing, and it was all pitch black. It was an eternity of nothing but my own thoughts. There is a theory which states that if ever anyone discovers exactly what the universe is for and why it is here, it will instantly disappear and be replaced by something even more bizarre and inexplicable. There is another theory which states that this has already happened. Douglas Adams. I hear a lot of people say that the idea of existence, as well as the universe itself, is pointless, as if this is something to be afraid of. I feel like it's strange to perceive this as a frightening concept. The existence of sentient life in the universe is pointless, and the universe itself is pointless. According to what we believe we know of existence, that appears to be completely true. What other way is there to have it, however? If you're religious, you might say that religion is a reason for existence. Life is fleeting, and only acts as a way of measuring subjective morality. The afterlife is what really matters. But why does the afterlife matter? You live for eternity, but for what? For the omnipotent being? What reason does it have to continue existing? Does it just have a symbiotic relationship with its creations? If so, what's the point of that relationship? To further exist? You might notice the cyclical nature of that concept. Replace the omnipotent being with the universe, as discussed above, and the end result remains the same. In fact, if any reason for existing that you might state involves continuing to exist, whether you're conscious and sentient in an afterlife, or whether you're just a pile of bones, then it is self-contradictory and doesn't actually answer the question for the presence of us in the universe. Ultimately, existence in itself, whether that is as an inanimate object or as a sentient being, doesn't matter in any way. For anything of any level of intelligence or power, we will follow the rules that we as a collective set out for ourselves. If you believe that that is bullshit, then there is nothing you or anyone else can do about it. There is no choice available to you to reject the pointlessness of existence. You can only measure yourself according to the rules and characteristics of the existence you may experience. It's like a video game. Ultimately, the idea of a video game is pointless. You play it to enjoy it and improve your character, but in the end the state of your character or the state of the game is moot. It doesn't mean you shouldn't play it, however. After all, the existence of the character doesn't matter, nor does the game, nor do you, nor does humanity, nor does the universe or any omnipotent beings. Soul of life, to enjoy it, do what you can. Go out and do something you've always been afraid to do. But don't avoid being afraid, because in 2000 years time nobody will remember. Avoid being afraid because existence itself, whether that is today or 2000 years from today, is entirely incapable of producing any form of result that matters in any way. Just exist for the sake of existing, and be glad that you were something that had the ability to perceive existence itself. Excluding all the existential stuff, what really scares me in the near future is the possibility of a runaway greenhouse loop. Basically, the Arctic permafrost may conceal vast reservoirs of methane gas that will be released when the planet's warming melts that permafrost. Methane is a much more potent greenhouse gas than CO2. It's like rolling a snowball down a hill. We've given it that first little push, and as the planet warms, more methane will be released, which will cause the planet to warm faster. We are probably past the point of no return already, because we blew 20 years on business as usual, and now we've scrapped the last ditch climate agreement, so a few wealthy coal executives can fiddle for a few more years, while the country burns. That we will use up all the readily accessible resources, and that, if we fail to make it to the stars with our present civilization, humanity will die here on the earth as following generations will be forced to work harder for diminishing resources. I have two. The Calthret gun. The warming of climate will melt methane clathrate deposits in Siberia and at the bottom of oceans. Methane is much more potent greenhouse gas than CO2, so it will cause a runaway warming that will cause cataclysmic extinction event. Total dystopia, pretty much saying 1984 is inevitable. There have always been cycles of more and less freedom for people. With the advent of technology, control of populace is getting tighter and tighter. NSA, combined with very effective and unrestrained enforcement. Good example is the militarization of police in the US. This will lead to a tipping point from which there is no return. Some form of totality will take over at some point, and if it manages economy well enough to fulfill basic needs and maintain strong enough grip on the population, reversal by a revolution will be impossible. The government has absolutely very little power to save us. In the event of any major disaster, the government will not support or even attempt to help the people that are hurt. Instead, it will just try to isolate the problem. If you doubt this, think of Hurricane Katrina. Then, imagine if instead of a localized problem, there were a EMP or nuclear bomb that dropped on a larger area. I live in Mississippi and I remember Katrina. I was only in 4th grade at the time, but I remember we didn't have power for nearly 2 weeks. It seemed like no one cared about a small town in the middle of nowhere. I still remember my dad and older brother hiding guns all over the house just in case we needed to use them. The Great Filter. In short, everything we know about life on Earth suggests that it happened quickly, under circumstances which are pretty common throughout the universe. There's no reason at all to think Earth is particularly special, so the universe should have life all over. Whether it's 10%, 1%, or 0.0001% of stars that have life, that's still trillions of separate living worlds within the known universe. So if that's the case, where are they all? The Great Filter essentially says there must be something, war, plague, etc., preventing the overwhelming majority of civilizations from reaching the point of interstellar communication or travel. Since the Earth is less than 5 billion years old, most of these civilizations should be much older, and therefore more advanced, than we are, but they haven't found us, and we haven't seen any trace of them. We have not reached those milestones yet ourselves, and the filter must do its work before a civilization reaches them. We were either extraordinarily lucky to make it through the filter unscathed, and we are one of the rare exceptions to make it through, or, more than likely, it's still coming. Not sure if it's really a theory, but the nothingness after death really terrifies me. Probably because I can't imagine it, but just the fact that this could really just be it. When I die, it's just nothing. I will no longer be, and I guess I won't know it. Whenever I start to think about it, I need to stop, or I'll get really anxious. Scary stuff thinking about nothingness. I suppose the fact that the universe will end up expanding infinitely until every form of heat and all the conditions of life disappear forever, leaving only a boundless graveyard, is, in the grand scheme of things, the scariest theory there could be. Sad part is, it currently seems the most likely fate of the universe due to its calculated density. At least, that's what I've been taught in high school. Well, we'll be long dead anyway. A close second would be that free will is an illusion, and we are only the sum of impulses dictated by our genes and the education we received, essentially making our responses to life predetermined at birth. I personally find the idea of us being watched a bit spooky. It's entirely possible that our universe is a simulation, perhaps of multiple levels like simulation eruption. If you think of the entire human timeline, and how quickly we've developed computers in such a short period, it seems quite plausible that a computerized simulation as detailed as life could be created. If life continued improving technology at such speed, we could be nothing more than lab rats inside a computer for a greater intelligence. They could be observing us at x 10,000 speed, where 10 billion years of our universe is just 1 minute to them. In a weird way, this kind of makes me strive to be a good person. I don't believe in God or anything, but I live my life as though something is judging me, even though I have no idea who it might be. That every time you get knocked unconscious, or possibly fall asleep, your brain reboots for a split second. When it comes back online, it just uses the available cells to remake your consciousness. The old you, that had lived an uninterrupted life up until then, is actually gone. Basically, it's like the teleportation dilemma. If the cells in your brain are broken up, then teleported and reassembled, is it still you, or a new person? In terms of evolution, it doesn't matter what happens after we die. The only genes that are under the influence of evolution are the ones that are relevant to survival and reproduction. So once you're certain to die, evolution has nothing to do with what happens next. Your dying moments as your body shuts down contain unimaginable suffering as your brain dies, because evolution never prepared our minds to deal with it. Consciousness refuses to end, so you endure the torture of your last breath forever. My personal favorite is a mashup of two theories. First, the widely accepted theory of the heat death of the universe, that over time, the energy in a closed system dissipates, even then energy holding atoms together, so that everything we are and everything we've ever known and loved drifts further and further apart in a silent, still, dead universe. The second relies upon a much less accepted theory of panpsychism that posits the consciousness does not emerge from a tipping point of complexity, but is present to some degree or other all the way down to the quantum level. Therefore, when you do die and dissipate, there is a chance that some sort of awareness could continue on. Now, mash these two together and be aware that everything you've ever known, all that you are, all that you have ever loved and been loved by, is drifting further and further away, astronomical distances, alone in empty dead space forever. I think the final equilibrium would be a relief. Sleep well.
Just wanted to say a big thank you for watching, guys. I really appreciate your support. If you haven't already, please smash that subscribe button. If you want to see more from us, click on the screen right now to watch our next video. See you guys soon.